everybody. Welcome to Aren't You Tired Of? And here's the thing. Aren't you tired of ambiguity and uncertainty and not knowing what to do, not knowing where to begin? And today is the topic.
All right.
We're going to dive into this big topic of ambiguity and how, when there's so much uncertainty in the world, in our life, at work, what do we do about it?
I'm ready to talk about it.
What about you, Mark? When you think about ambiguity, what do you think of?
You know what? When I think about ambiguity, I'm thinking about a word picture that I've used often in my career and when I'm, helping give people guidance. And it's like swimming in dark water.
Yeah.
Right? Or running through tall grass or like a cornfield. All I see is what's in front of me. I can't see up. I can't see side. That's like being in ambiguity. So I don't know what direction to go.
Yeah. And it might be your career. You don't know what to do next. It might be, I want to move, but I don't know where. It might be a lot of you in big jobs.
Should I stay? Should I go?
Should I go in big corporate jobs? It's like there's so much confusion what to do.
That's right.
And it's funny because I want to introduce our guest. And our guest today is my friend Martha May. Martha is a extremely successful executive, CPO at Varsity Brands. She was also a senior executive at Freeman Bell Helicopter, American Airlines. And what I could tell you, all the wonderful accomplishments that Martha has. What have I missed, Martha, that's important for this group to know?
Just that I've learned as much from failing as I have from succeeding. So thanks for framing it in the success way. But
so Martha, you know about the F word.
Yeah.
Failure.
Yes.
I do indeed.
And the other F word. Yeah, there you go.
That's right. I will say, when we were talking about this, Martha was the first face that popped in my head. And I'll tell you why. And it's because I have seen Martha in action. And she is someone who, outside observer, I don't know how you're feeling inside, can deal with a lot of ambiguity, a lot of change, and she's smiling and she's cool and calm, at least outwardly. And so I was thinking about who can give us that practical advice and perspective, and Martha's face popped right in. And so I emailed her. And so I'm curious for you, Martha. I guess I'll give a tip on when I emailed you and said, Martha, I think you're the perfect person for this. And here's her response, and I want to know why. Like, I really like ambiguity because it gives me options. Okay. Tell us about that. Like, why we don't often talk about the positives of ambiguity. We talk about the fear of it. Tell us about how you think about it.
Yeah.
It's funny. I think it was probably during my time at Bell Helicopter, we had a CFO there who was always talking about, like, don't make a decision before it's time. Because sometimes we feel real good about kind of making that decision and we don't really have all of the necessary inputs. And sometimes we just want to check that off our plate and move to the next thing. And if we will let it sort of sit for a minute, we might actually get to a better conclusion. And that opened up my mind to the possibility that actually the sort of narrowing my choices too soon was not always so helpful. And it just reframed ambiguity for me.
So I got a question for you on that, because I also think of you, Martha, as someone who gets a lot done and moves fairly quickly. And I'm curious, how do you find that right balance between letting things sit a minute and not sit too long, because then all of a sudden you're stuck?
Yeah, you're procrastipause.
You're procrastipazing. How do you find that right balance so you're effective?
I love that term, Mark, procrastipazing.
We just made it up.
I'm totally going to steal that one.
You can.
I think you have to, it's all about the situation, right? Like, there are some circumstances that require that decisiveness with whatever facts you have, as limited as they are, right?
Yeah.
But then there's some circumstances that just don't require it right then. And some of the discernment is around knowing the difference between those.
So smart.
Yeah.
I would tell you, now that I'm in a private equity-backed organization like Varsity Brands, where you are moving at rapid fire pace, if you're not comfortable with ambiguity or you don't find a way to reframe it, you're not going to be successful in this context, because you can't know what you don't know, and you've got to keep moving towards value creation.
Yeah. That is such a powerful statement. I have been talking, Martha, lately to, groups and teams about something. We live in this digital age. Things are moving at pace, right? And you just have all of this information coming at you. Our brains are wired for certainty, right? Because we got to know fight or flight, right? I got to be certain.
Mm-hmm.
But we're living in a time where I can't be certain really about anything because it changes so quickly. All I can do is bring you clarity for the next step. And I'm just curious, how can we reframe ambiguity in the way that you see it to move from that, I need this certainty, I got to know this for sure, to, hey, I don't know anything, but this is what I'm clear on right now. How do you balance that, and how would you think about that?
There's two things that come to mind as you say that, Mark. And the first one is to say, when you need that so deeply and your context you're in gives it to you, you often find yourself repeating those decisions. Like they don't stick.
Yeah.
I think that's worse for me than to move. And I guess, it's probably manifested in the most constructive way in my current role. As I arrived 7 years ago, and I remember my boss said, I've been told I need strategic HR. I wouldn't know it if it bit me. Like, what does that mean? And we had this great exchange, and it was like, I'll teach you that if you teach me this business, because if you teach me this business, I'll show you strategic HR.
Nice.
And I remember a conversation we had shortly after that where I said, well, I think we might want to try this. And he goes, well, try it. If it doesn't work, we'll adjust. And I thought, what freedom does that
great
give
mentality,
you, right?
Great mentality.
Not always the case. I came out of aerospace and defense, and when things have to stay in the air, right, the precision matters. And so I think
that's that certainty. That's that certainty, though, right?
Yeah.
You think about we were laughing in another episode about the NASA launch plan, right? But there does have to be some certainty, a certain level of that. So it's a balance.
Let's talk about, because we're getting into like that uncertainty, that feeling that we all have, that ambiguity. The reason why we're talking about it today, whether it's at work or it's personal life or whatever, why do you all think ambiguity creates so much discomfort for us at the beginning? And then we'll shift into how do we deal with it? But I'm curious, we always are big believers in know the why. Why is this happening in me?
Yeah.
So I want to start there. Martha, what do you think?
I think it's fear. And I hearken back, Patti, I think I've shared a little bit of this story with you, but I hearken back to my personal transformation that happened as I was previously married to a man and now I'm married to a woman, and went through that, and that was late in my 40s. And I remember thinking about all of the ways people knew me and how uncomfortable it was for them to accept me in my authentic self, right? And I used this book, and I have to give World Blue credit for it. It was a 30 Days to Freedom kind of like workbook to do. And you asked yourself every single day for 30 days, why am I afraid? Well, what am I afraid of? Why am I afraid? Why is it okay to essentially let go of the fear? And so in that moment in my life, I did the exercise for 30 days, and it wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be. But in abstract, it becomes this big thing. And you have to kind of break it down into its little pieces. So whether that's in your personal life or that's in your professional life, when you've got a big problem to solve, I think when you break it down to what do I know? What do I not know? What can I know? How would I go about learning that? Right.
Yeah.
So
that's what makes it manageable.
So the fear, you basically and you and I have talked about this before, obviously, and I think that was your way of taking what was that fear and say, I'm going to break this in, and I'm going to understand. I'm sure you felt like you knew a lot more about yourself at the end of that exercise for multiple days, for sure. So fear, that's a big one. I think for me is I think we overestimate the risks that we can't predict. If you're looking for that certainty, then, I'm going to not put in your situation too, Martha, where, I that is, I don't even know what to expect. There's too much uncertainty there. And I want it to be certain.
Yeah.
I want to know the plan. Those of us who are, a lot of us listening, and I think all three of us probably a little bit in that type A crowd, we want to know what's going to happen. We want the plan.
Yeah.
And in a lot of uncertainty, you're probably not going to have it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well,
so
I think a lot of us, the whole premise of this podcast is, there's a whole lot that we're tired of, but we're trying to figure out ways to live and work better. And I know there's a lot of days where I get asked questions or, do you know something? And I do this thing where I eject. I was like, I don't know. Because it is too much.
It's too much.
I don't know. Ask somebody else. Right. And I'll abdicate it because I just can't right now.
So, and Martha, what else would you say? Yeah. What are other reasons do you think in terms of why ambiguity is such a scary word for us besides
control?
Control.
It's
the loss of control.
Yeah, the loss of control. Like if we feel like it's known, even if that isn't kind of the preferred path, it's a known path, right? Like, so I can define it. I'm the structure I'm comfortable with. I think that loss of control sometimes contributes meaning.
Yeah. And it's funny because I think we all know people who have stayed in jobs, stayed in relationships, situations, locations they don't want to be in, but at least, like you said, it's known. May not be ideal for me, but I know the situation. I'll pick that over the uncertainty of something different.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
I was going to say that one of the things we talk about, and we may have said in the last episode, and maybe the one before that, but when I think about ambiguity, and I'm hearing you, Martha, talk about your experiences and, you thinking about the who you are and the choices you're going to make, in your life to live and work well, a lot of that has to come with like self-awareness. I got to know who I am. I got to know. And we say that self-awareness is actually the greatest gift you can give yourself. So, I think our listeners out there you got to know why you're uncomfortable with ambiguity, right? And so I'm wondering, how did you kind of start to frame, I'm very comfortable with change, as opposed to, I'm not, because there's probably someone listening that's like, I never really thought about it that way, but now that you put it that way, this is who I am. So how did you kind of determine, no, I'm someone that can thrive in ambiguity?
Your approach. What is your approach that's kind of worked for you in so much ambiguity?
First of all, I'm not afraid to say I don't know. I don't know that I always was that way. That's an evolved kind of, as I've matured, right?
Yeah.
To recognize I don't know the answer. And so if I don't feel like I've got the right solution, then it's worth getting some other thought partners in that process and taking a minute to figure it out without feeling the pressure of making that call. And it's funny that self-awareness, it comes through the numerous 360s you get where you were not self-aware, right?
Right.
You're like, whoa, I don't see that in myself. Right?
Who are they talking about? Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think it's all those things sort of stockpiled over time.
Yeah.
A wonderful mentor of mine once said, learning doesn't come from doing, it comes from reflecting on doing. And I think I didn't learn that much later in my career, because that's where the gift comes.
Yeah.
Is you're going to get some of these things wrong when you make the decision, sometimes prematurely. And if you do the reflection and the learning, you step back and you go, okay, I've got that to take forward with me.
That's awesome.
And I can apply it.
That's really, really powerful.
Yes, for sure. And I'm curious too, Martha, if somebody is listening and they're like, I am swimming or running through the field of a lot of ambiguity.
The tall grass.
The tall grass is there, whether it is I'm trying to make a career change, I'm trying to make a lifestyle change, whatever it may be. How would you encourage them? Is there a thought process? Is there here are some things I think that worked for me that I would recommend you try? Is there anything, is that too simple of a question?
No. And I'll apply it in a very extremely not simple circumstance because I think everybody can relate to this. We all had probably the highest amount of ambiguity that we've ever seen in our lifetimes during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Big time.
Yeah.
Right. And for those of us who were leading, I mean, that's when this kind of moment of truth happened for at least the human capital management space, right? Where it was suddenly very obvious that this was a fulcrum to be connected very much with value creation and the commercial success of a business. And I remember I had a team of people I'd assembled around me to start kind of building our plan. And some of them were external medical advisors. Some of them were, exceptional program management and facilities folks that could help us just figure all this stuff we'd never encountered out. And it was really asking some basic questions like, what do we know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, and I know that sounds super simple, but like we rarely these days stop long enough to ask ourselves, what do I know to be true?
Yeah.
What are the
but that's the point. You're making it beautifully. That point around there was nothing that was certain, right? Back then, all I could do was help get enough information, insight, or someone that knew a little bit more than me to take the next step, right? It was that clarity on just what's the next step, right?
And Mark, your point on the next, it's and sometimes it's a super small next step.
Tomorrow.
Right?
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah. And giving yourself permission to just see whatever the kind of blinders allow for you to see in that dark place or dark space that you referred to earlier. And then it's really just making sure you're not artificially constraining yourself.
Yeah.
So talk about that. Talk about that a little bit, artificially constraining yourself. How might someone be doing that?
Not believing that the decision right is in part or in full in their hands is one way. I see that happen all the time.
Yeah.
And so as leaders, our job is to make sure we're being explicit about affording that decision right so that there is clarity amongst our teams, that they really do have some of that empowerment and autonomy to make those calls.
Yeah.
And particularly on the stuff that isn't going to make or break you, like let them learn on the cut their, just like their kids. I have a 21-year-old daughter, and it's like, make mistakes, just make new ones. Is what I often say to her.
So smart.
And do them early so that you can apply the learning later when the consequences are greater.
So important.
Yeah, I heard this, for some reason, this is reminding me of Billie Eilish was on Amy Poehler's podcast, which I listen to regularly. And she made the point of talking about experimenting and trying, and you're going to make mistakes. And her comment was, a big part of making anything is allowing it to be bad before it's good. If you think you can't allow it to be bad for even 1 second, it'll stop you from ever doing anything big at all. And I love that because I think that just really resonates with me on this topic.
Yeah. It's really, really good.
Yeah. Because you're going to make some.
I'm fathoming on that for a second because that was really well said. It's like ambiguity. It might be the neighbor to, confusion. Another neighbor, maybe resulting in procrastination. Yep. Another neighbor, is anxiety. All those things maybe living in the same neighborhood. Yeah. And in your head.
Well, Mark,
it could be a lot.
Mark, the other neighbor could be innovation.
Yeah. So let's pivot to that because you're talking about at your core, what, Patti was telling me, your superpower is being able to be in ambiguity and thinking opportunity.
Yeah. Talk about that. The upside of how you think it has advantaged you or it could advantage anyone of seeing the potential and ambiguity.
Yeah.
I think it just gives you freedom to color outside of the lines in an environment where that isn't traditionally sort of afforded.
Yeah.
And or encouraged, maybe even. And so thinking about it, and part of that is just how our minds work, right? If you can turn that from the neighbors that, Mark, you were just talking about that are kind of scary, right? Anxiety and all those, and you turn it into opportunity, it's like, okay, then if I think about this differently, what's possible that I didn't imagine possible? And if that's worth pursuing, what would I need to overcome in order to get there?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
I love that you just used the term possible. I had to send an email to somebody today, and there were a lot of questions around this topic, and it was just a lot we just don't know, right? And I said, let me go and check on this, that, and the other thing so we can determine what's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I use that. Yeah. I use that phrase a lot because if you think about possibility, you're in that space of innovate. I'm not going to keep myself in the box.
Yeah.
Because what's possible might actually sit outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and with AI and everything that's transforming at such a rapid pace right now, like the today's way is just going to be dramatically different.
Different.
It is dramatically.
Totally.
And I think, what's possible, I think now we're kind of shifting into some tips, things that we would encourage if you're feeling I'm in ambiguity. I think I'm a big options person. No boundaries. What are all the possibilities? Don't pre-screen. Oh, well, that would never work. And, oh, I don't think I'm up for that. I'm not the right person. Stop. What are all of the options available to you? And if you can really think about that, that can also help you think, I'm not going to pre-screen, but there might be something here that might work. Mm-hmm. And so that's one, I think, in terms of being open and thinking about the possibilities. What other things do you think in terms of approach?
I think breaking it down into its bite-sized pieces is another way to sort of just make it manageable.
Yeah.
That's a practical way I do it, and not being afraid to phone a friend, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And in COVID, like you said, that's what we did, right? Small steps. Well, we can see through tomorrow, so we're going to be doing this. And then when we know more, we'll change it. Yeah. That same mindset of small steps, one at a time.
Yeah.
What else, you guys? What other things that might help people in times of feeling overwhelmed by ambiguity? I'll throw one out while you guys are thinking.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about, is a decision permanent? Or is the door locked after you make it? Or is it a swinging door? Mm-hmm. Can I try this? And if it doesn't work, oh, well, we'll regroup and we'll be no worse off than if we did nothing. So I think that's, how permanent is this decision? Most decisions aren't.
Yeah.
They aren't irreversible, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Very few.
Mm-hmm. What else?
Well, and if you think about that, that's sort of akin to kind of feeling like you got to find the perfect sequencing.
Yeah.
And there isn't a perfect sequencing. There's just an optimal for what I know right now. Mm-hmm. And how do I apply that and then adjust, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
I've often used a rock wall as an analogy for a kind of career ladder.
Mm.
Yeah.
And it gives you that sort of, there's no kind of permanence to that decision, right? You look, when you're standing down at the bottom, you think, okay, is my goal the top?
Yeah.
And then you sort of map out visually your path. But as soon as you get on the wall, you move.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go laterally, or you sometimes have to go down to go back up. And so I think that's what we have to think about our decisions in that way, that there's not a permanence to them, that you can adjust.
Yeah.
You also mentioned, Martha, earlier when you were talking about your story about, you said something about, 70-30. It's going to be, I'm going to get it, part of it. How much do I know? Maybe I'm going to know about 60-70% of what I need to know, and that's going to have to do. Talk about that, making decisions, whether it be at personal or at work, when you're just not going to know everything you want to know, but you got to move anyway.
It used to be the 80-20 rule. Now I think we know less, so it's the 70-30.
Yeah, there we go.
Rocket science to it, right?
Right.
And you sit back and you just recognize that things are going to change, but for you to keep putting one step kind of in front of the other and attempting and trying, you'll learn something from that, and the next time you'll get better. And so I think of it as like, over my career, pattern recognition has gotten stronger for me, to be able to see those patterns at play and be able to call that ball, sort of like a great quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm a big Green Bay fan, so Jordan Love's my guy. And like, they see the patterns. It's like Caitlin Clark on the basketball court.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Like, that's when you know, like, excellence is when you start leveraging those patterns. It doesn't mean all those passes or all those plays are perfectly run. It just means I know enough to know it's worth making that taking that chance.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And I think the thing you're pointing out too is for the planners, the people who are listening and they love the perfect plan, pattern recognition means you're not just following your plan and you did it and then you did it and then you did it. It's also looking at what did I learn this week?
Mm-hmm.
What's changing in high change environments? What did I learn? Or if you're trying to decide, do I want to move to this new location, or change careers? I'm out talking to some people. I'm visiting. I'm gathering information and instinct, and I'm getting smarter and smarter and smarter. Yeah. Not that you laid out the steps and you're on step 7. Now it's 8. I mean, I'm pattern recognition, which I understand you are good at that, Martha, requires some observation, insight.
And you have to know yourself, to Mark's earlier point, that self-awareness, in order to then be able to apply that and understand what you're seeing in others that will have importance.
Be important for you.
Martha, I get the impression, and you'll, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're comfortable with change. I think to be comfortable in ambiguity, you got to be comfortable with things are going to change. They're going to move at pace. An insight that I had about myself that as Patti and I were talking about, this episode, she said maybe you'd resonate with this. I can change and pivot in my work outside of home. I'm happy. I'll change something for you, whether you ask me to or not. I'm happy with that. But at home, I've got to have things in place. I got to have my space. Got to have my blanket. I got to have my things.
Predictability.
I have to have it somewhere. And during COVID, the way that this came up, you brought up this earlier, is our home actually, we had a big water issue and had to move out, mold everywhere. It was behind the walls, so we couldn't see it. But my wife was sick. And we couldn't figure out why. Long story, we figured out. So we had to move out. We moved during COVID from hotel to hotel to hotel, and then finally stayed in kind of like one of those corporate apartments. But I couldn't. Not only was COVID going on, and then some other personal things going on in my life, and loss and some of those things, but I was miserable because I didn't have my comforts. So I'm wondering, that was my big aha moment, that in certain instances, way comfortable with ambiguity and change, but I've got to have some things that are steady for me. How does that story resonate with you? And what would you say, similar or no? Or
Totally, Mark. And it's interesting because we had somebody who just essentially resigned, and I asked some probing questions and ultimately discovered in that dialogue that they had a whole bunch of ambiguity and chaos at work, and they were dealing with a whole bunch of ambiguity and chaos at home.
Yeah.
And this person's an exceptional sort of over the top type A, like gets the job of like 4 people done, right? Phenomenal. You don't ever want to lose this kind of talent, right?
Yeah.
And we worked it out to where we could give the person a leave, which is great, right? So but what it made me think, because I got asked questions by others, like, do you think she's coming back? And I said, well, if we're going to have to solve the stuff that's creating the challenges at work while she's gone, or no, I don't think she's coming back, because she's going to solve the stuff at home.
Right.
She's not going to want to reinsert herself back into this context if we haven't solved things that are within our control.
Yeah.
But it reminded me that, like, we just need stability somewhere.
Yeah.
And the most uncomfortable ambiguity is when it's pervasive.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even imagine what you went through, Mark, during that time. Like, you need something to anchor to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think that that's good for a listener to think about, where can I get that stability? Yeah. If I need it,
where is it for me?
Where is it for me? And, I want to ask that a related question, Martha, and that is, we all are surrounded by people, we have maybe different tolerance level for ambiguity. You are someone who work-wise comfortable, even might prefer it. Options, choices. How do you coach, advise other people in your life who maybe that's just not what they prefer? How do you coach someone to say, how can you get more comfortable? We've talked about some tips here, but I'm just curious, what's that conversation like?
It's really knowing them and their preferences to start with. And then what looks like a little tiny non-risk to you is like a huge risk.
Huge
to them.
risk.
And acknowledging that, particularly if you're in a leadership position, to encourage them to test and try and experiment. But their experiments maybe, much smaller than your experiments initially because of the level of comfort there.
Yes.
But giving them permission and encouragement to try it on a smaller scale.
Yeah.
So they can, build the reps and success with it so they can get to a little bit bigger risk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of meeting them where they are and just encouraging a little bit of movement. I also think you're saying you have to at least listen and be aware enough to know where are they on this topic? How are they doing in ambiguity and in the change that you're facing?
Yeah.
Let's shift a little bit, and I would like to talk about we've given a lot of examples here, but I would like to talk a little bit about what do we think are some of the best tips, words of encouragement. It doesn't have to be just one, but someone who is listening going, this is hard for me and I need to hear. You guys all seem relatively comfortable. What are the one or two things you think our encouragement to them would be to try?
Write it down. Like there's just such power in writing it down.
Journaling?
Journaling, writing down what you're concerned about, what's holding you back. Because it takes a little bit of the power away.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
You're looking at the words on the page and you're like, well, that's not that scary. I can try that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What do you think, Mark?
Well, when I was thinking about ambiguity, and for some reason, I went into the whole space of preserving and actually nurturing your mental health around this. And it's almost like, I know I was with a therapist at one point in time that, did this whole technique where you call it out, right? I see you, ambiguity.
Yeah.
Right. Not today, ambiguity.
Yeah. It's
right?
almost like a physical presence.
Yes. You make it there so that it starts to be exactly what you said, Martha. You call it out, you're writing it down, then it's outside of you so that now you can start dealing with it. And I'm pointing like, the people that are listening can see me, but ambiguity's over there in the corner. And I'm like, I see you.
Yeah.
It's like, some people say, not today, Satan, right? Yeah. It's just like, not today, ambiguity. You're not doing it to me, right? So I think I like the point of writing it down, calling it out, naming it, whatever it is, listeners. I see you, anxiety. I see you, procrastination, and not today.
Not today.
I
think related to that is it makes me think of, we know when it comes to change and ambiguity, one of the biggest stresses is when our expectations are way out of sync with reality.
Yeah.
And so for myself and just in coaching, advising others, stop expecting it's going to clear up here pretty soon. Things are going to get calmer. Once we get this one thing finished, come August, and boy, is it going to be smooth sailing. It is never going to be that. And even in your personal life,
That's right.
I mean, you deal with one thing and then you got something else coming. And so I think that expect that there is going to be ambiguity. Ambiguity is going to be in the corner. Maybe not going to be driving the train today, but it is going to be there.
Yeah.
And just acknowledge that's a part of life today. And I don't know if that helps or not, but for me, I have to remind myself what I sometimes like a certainty. I like plan. There's not going to be a clear one on this one, know?
Yeah.
And it helps not having that dissonance, that feeling.
I think so. I from what both of you are saying, I just get to the place of just acknowledging it. And, I was talking to someone the other day and they're like, oh, it's going to calm down soon. I'm like, will it?
No. It's not gonna.
I was like, will it?
No, it's not gonna.
I don't know that it's gonna. So
No.
That should be the kind of encouragement or fuel, if you will, for folks who are really super uncomfortable in this space to just try something.
Yeah.
Try something new, try something you haven't done before, and tell somebody else about it so that you're not alone in that process.
Trying it.
It's good.
And the journey, right? Because your point, Patty, I believe that it's only going to get more ambiguous in our world and in our work. And so if we can get a little bit better at managing through that, it will have, Mark, to the important point you made, a more positive effect on our mental well-being.
Yeah. And your confidence.
Yeah.
Build your self-confidence that I'm building that muscle, a little bit. Also, I think an encouragement for we talked about that, anytime you're feeling uncertain or you prefer maybe the predictable, even though it's not ideal, over the uncertain, sometimes I think it's helpful to think, are you giving your external circumstances, are they at the wheel? Are they driving your car? And you're sitting in the back seat versus what you're saying, Martha, all your examples, try it. Get out there, give it a try, experiment, do something to move yourself forward. What other things are you guys thinking of? Tips for ambiguity. Anything else, Martha, that we haven't mentioned that you have on your mind?
Nothing. We've kind of touched on it, but it's more of just look around you. Who do you see that navigates this kind of uncertainty and ambiguity really well?
Yeah, that's important.
And like you.
And go have a conversation and say, here's what I'm working through.
Yeah.
What am I missing?
Yeah.
Right? Like I love that kind of dialogue where you're like, here's what I see. These are the facts that I believe to be true. This is what I see in the circumstance. Am I missing anything? And other outside in kind of different angled views can help a lot.
Yeah.
And I think too, poke a little bit. Is that really true? What you're saying, are those are they really facts, or are they just something you're bringing with you from 10 years ago that may not fit? I think where you're saying, Martha, I love is have a sounding board. If you know this is hard for you, who in your life can be your sounding board on making this a calmer experience for you? And you can get ambiguity, can sit in the corner and you could be smiling at it,
Yeah.
And that person can help you see where you are calling something that isn't a fact.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's
I'm going to try to summarize. You tell me what I've missed here, because I think this is a really important topic and it's a big topic.
Yeah.
So we talked about having a sounding board, small steps, try some things, experiment a little bit. Don't worry about, I'm going to make a fatal mistake.
Right.
Look at all the options. Maybe the ambiguity is giving you some possibilities that you wouldn't have had otherwise. We didn't say it quite this way, but for those of you master planners out there, shorten it up, baby. It's going to be maybe 24 hours. That's as far as you can go, and that's going to be good enough.
That's the clarity.
That's all we need.
Next best step, right?
That's the next best step.
Yeah.
What any other, just, have I missed in summarizing any other key points from today?
I don't think so.
I don't think so, but I was actually typing the note down because I did not want to forget it. And Martha, I'm going to steal your analogy of the path, it's standing at the bottom of a rock wall, right? And so, if you've ever done that, right, you look up, no matter how high you want to go, what's your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? And you start to climb, but the path that you might see, that might not be the path you take. And you may have to pivot, change in the moment, right? Go left, go down.
One step at a time.
Yeah. And that's one move at a time. Yes. And that's a big aha that I actually had to write down, because I'm like, I don't want to forget that, because I'm certain I've done this before. I'm going to get to the top, but the way you get to that goal may look really different each time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
When you're right on top of it, Mark, your perspective is entirely different than when you were standing at the
That's
bottom.
right.
Looking up.
That's right.
Yes.
I always love to anchor to moments that matter. And I was just talking to a team today where I was saying, let's make sure we're looking at the forest and not just the trees, right? That old analogy, right? And it's kind of, when you're right on top of it, all I can see is the bark. All I see is the tree, but it's big. It's big forest.
Big. And if you have that sounding board, somebody can help you.
Yeah, you got to have somebody to pull you back.
I do think Martha, those of you that don't know Martha, to me, and I have worked with a lot of people, Martha is a walking example of just somebody who can deal with a lot of change, a lot of ambiguity, and does it gracefully, calmly, with a smile. And she has a sense of humor. I mean, all the time through all this chaos. And I will add, this is not the reason she's here. Our dogs are BFFs and went to summer camp together. So that really is another reason why.
That's special.
Yes.
Should I say, I got a fun fact.
No, Daisy and Zoe are, So thank you, Martha. You have been a delight, and we appreciate the inspiration, example, and all that you're doing in your career and all that we've seen. So you're out there doing big things and great things. So thank you so much for participating.
Appreciate you both.
You bet.
Absolutely.
Okay. Tell Tara hi.
I sure will.
Okay, bye.
Right, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.